looking at today on Game Ranks, the top 10 new games of October 2020. Starting off at number 10, it's Remothered Broken Porcelain, a survival horror game dropping you into an all-girls boarding school, which it is the sequel to Remothered Tormented Fathers, which not only received a lot of great reviews and great user input, it even got the attention of Keiichiro Toyama, creator of the Silent Hill series. The first game had a really interesting story, and I'm frankly pretty interested in seeing exactly how they do this. It's billed as an escape story, and I'm sure that will involve solving all the mysteries of the Flemington Girls Institute, the name of the boarding school in question. That Remothered is becoming a franchise is something that I think is great, on account the first is a phenomenal game. Remothered Broken Porcelain is coming on October 13th to PlayStation 4, Xbox One, Switch, and PC. At number 9 is Cloudpunk, which is, by the way, just gonna go ahead and say it, one of the coolest games. It's just great. So the basis here is that you're a delivery driver for a, well, less than savory service that's just moving, like, dubious items around, let's just say. It is an incredible looking game. It is built with voxels, so it has a sort of retro look to it as you're driving through. It looks kind of like pixel art, but in 3D, and given it's a cyberpunk city, that is perfect. It's wonderful. In your deliveries, you're going to be doing both driving and walking. Driving's probably more fun, but I'll tell you, I've played this game, and I've just got completely immersed in it. Like, there are people that complain about backtracking and stuff like that. I don't even care. It does the job exactly how it's supposed to. And, like any actually good cyberpunk story, it criticizes our world of today via this surreal neon landscape filled with surprises and perils. Cloudpunk is out on PS4, Xbox One, and Switch on October 15th. It is out on PC now if you would like to play it though, and I highly recommend this game. At number 8 is G.I. Joe Operation Blackout, which takes a Sonic Adventure 2 style approach to telling a story, in which you get to do both sides of the story. You get to control the protagonists, you get to control the antagonists. I mean, you can play it single player, but this is a co-op game, and that makes me very happy. It's nice to see something like this in a split-screen couch co-op situation. There are also competitive multiplayer modes, but I think it basically has a very interesting look to it. Honestly, it looks like a fun third-person shooter that takes up property and does something with it that, like, we don't see enough of. Honestly, like, it's not uncommon to see people comparing the way that they're doing this game to Sonic Adventure 2. And, like, I think that's really cool. I like Sonic Adventure 2 a lot, but, like, at the same time, it's a totally different type of game. It's one that I'm really looking forward to playing, because if it actually pans out as cool as it sounds, I think it might be kind of a heavy hitter. G.I. Joe Operation Blackout's hitting PlayStation 4, Xbox One, Switch, and PC on October 13th. At number 7 is Amnesia Rebirth. Now, if anything can easily tell you what Amnesia Rebirth is, it's the title. Amnesia is, of course, a really big, very cool series that's essentially a stealth horror game. There's, of course, lots of different creatures that are there more or less to make everything stressful and awful for you. But not only will you be solving environmental puzzles, you will be learning about the world and what happened and why you're here. Because obviously, the name of the game is Amnesia, you do not remember. Now, the other two Amnesia games are very good. I think the first one's a little bit better, personally. And I'm quite happy that the game has returned to the original developer. Not that A Machine for Pigs is bad or anything, it's actually very good. I just like the original. I like The Dark Descent. Amnesia Rebirth is hitting PC and PS4 on October 20th. At number 6 is Age of Empires 3, Definitive Edition, which is, of course, a remaster of the original Age of Empires 3. If you're unfamiliar, it is a classic real-time strategy game. Came out back in 2005, truly one of the best out there, and it will certainly be nice to see it in all of its remastered glory. Now, basically, you're supposed to progress through several ages, starting from a very small town and traversing through the Discovery Age, Colonial Age, European Expansion, Fortress Age, etc., etc. The ages of the Empire, so to speak. You're not just building, you're also conquering and engaging in various political struggles, expanding, and ultimately building an empire. Age of Empires 3 Definitive Edition is coming to PC on October 15th. At number 5 is the Dark Pictures anthology, Little Hope. Now, if you're familiar with Until Dawn or Man of Medan, you basically know what type of game you're getting here. It's billed as an interactive drama survival horror game, and basically you control a cast of characters, 5 in this game, and you're making choices that affect the outcome of the story, basically during the course of the game. There are multiple endings, including ones where every single one of the characters die, but let's talk a little bit about the story itself. This is a game that spans a couple of different timelines. First, modern day. Second, back in 1692 as a group of settlers was executed during a series of witch hunts. Your main characters end up noticing that these executed settlers look exactly like them, and the point here is figuring out why. Also, I'm gonna add that there's probably an element of attempting to not die, getting out of Little Hope, the city that the game takes place in. Man of Medan was a great game, and frankly the Dark Pictures Anthology looks like it's really gonna be a long-standing, great series. Little Hope lands on PlayStation 4, Xbox One, and PC on October 30th. At number 4 is Baldur's Gate 3, which is something I never thought I was gonna see, but I gotta say I'm pretty excited for. The 2 original BioWare Baldur's Gate games were obviously Dungeons & Dragons based Western/computer-style RPGs that Larian Studios, developers of the utterly fantastic Divinity Original Sin games, have brought all of that experience to Baldur's Gate 3. A big change from the previous 2 Baldur's Gate games, however, is that Larian's Original Sin turn-based style combat is making its appearance in this game, and frankly, that's a development I am really excited about. Divinity Original Sin is phenomenal, so Baldur's Gate 3 basically being a game that incorporates stuff from those games, how could this be bad? Baldur's Gate 3 is hitting Google Stadia and PC on October 6th. At number 3 is Watch Dogs Legion, a game I've been looking forward to for quite a while, particularly since Watch Dogs 2 was such a big step up from the original Watch Dogs. Now, what I think is really particularly good about this is that the other 2 Watch Dogs games have kind of painted the CTOS thing as a kind of scary thing that is making life perhaps a little bit more surveillance-oriented, whereas Watch Dogs Legion is like, no, London's a police state. It's gotten much more serious, and you're literally part of an armed resistance. Also, you're going to be recruiting characters for the resistance, which are all playable, and I love that. I don't know, this kind of feels like what Watch Dogs always should have been, this struggle against this authoritarian force, rather than the stories that kind of incidentally interacted with it. For me, this seems very much like it's going to be the kind of best expression of Watch Dogs, and I'm just ready for it. I'm ready to play through the next logical step in this story. Watch Dogs Legion is coming to PC, PS4, Xbox One, and Stadia on October 29th. At number 2 is Crash Bandicoot 4, It's About Time, which is a restyling but a faithful sequel to Crash Bandicoot. Like, the same developer that remade the games for the next generation is giving us Crash Bandicoot 4, It's About Time, and frankly, I'm really excited for it. They really nailed the originals, they updated them, they brought them into a new era, and the fact that they've taken what makes Crash good and sort of amped it up to 11, to use a popular phrase, is basically what it looks like has happened here. I love the new art style, for one. It manages to retain the cartooniness and the animation-oriented look, while feeling new, fresh, but not just derivative of DreamWorks, as a lot of animation is nowadays. Not to take a dump on Spyro, that actually looks great, but there's a lot of things that just look like DreamWorks cartoons at this point. Crash Bandicoot 4, I just can't wait to see exactly how big they managed to make it, because it looks like that's what they really went for. Between that and the new powers they've given Crash via these masks that he finds, it looks like it's going to be a faithful sequel, and maybe even a market improvement on a platforming series that just is fantastic. I love Crash Bandicoot. Crash Bandicoot 4, It's About Time hits PlayStation 4 and Xbox One on October 2nd. And finally, at number 1, and I think this is a pretty big one, Star Wars Squadrons. This is a game that's set after Return of the Jedi. It's basically New Republic versus Remnants of Galactic Empire space combat simulator. In some respects, like, I know they're trying to evoke Rogue Squadron in title, and there may be elements of that game that make appearances here, but in my opinion, it definitely looks as though they're trying to evoke X-Wing versus TIE Fighter, and I'm there for it. Next-gen X-Wing versus TIE Fighter is always something that should have happened, and it's actually kind of shocking it hasn't. It's also a game that utilizes PSVR and VR on the PC, but we'll see exactly to what extent, and if it's a novelty. I hope it's not. I hope that they manage to do a good job integrating it, but one way or the other, this is actually a game I'm pretty excited for. It's kind of snuck up on me, too. It does look quite good. I mean, EA could obviously screw it up, but they've kind of really shown that they're taking Star Wars a little bit more seriously since the disastrous launch of Battlefront 2. Like, they sort of revamped that game into something that's great. Jedi Fallen Order was phenomenal, and honestly, I'm starting to gain a little bit of trust in EA's vision for Star Wars, so I'm ready for Star Wars Squadrons, which is hitting PC, PS4, and Xbox One on October 2nd. I also do have a couple of bonus games to mention for you. First is FIFA 20.